Welcome back. This is still the Good Morning Africa show on Pan-African Television, and this is the newspaper review segment. You're welcome from wherever you're watching us. We are well aware that our people in the north, they don't take us for granted at all, and we really do appreciate that. And from across the country, wherever you're watching us, we do appreciate you. Thank you so much for always choosing us to bring you latest updates here in Ghana, across the African continent, and around the world. My name is OHEMAA, AGYEKUM. This morning, I'm seated with my panelists, very insightful and enlightened men who are ready to enlighten us as well in our topics for discussion today. And you know that you're always welcome to send in your submissions and contributions to all of our topics on 0559 919 802, 0559 919 802. You're most welcome to share with us what your thoughts and your concerns are. Now, before I introduce my guest, let me share with you our topics for discussion today. Today we'll be talking about Namibia blocking ship over Israel war crime concerns. Also, Parliament approved 339 million USD for Tema motorway expansion project, not 660 million USD. This is coming from Kwame Agboja. Group petitions OSP to probe 245 million expenditure for all African games, and also public not enthused about Mohammed's 24-hour nightclub promise. And here are stories we'll be treating this morning. One of my guests just came in. Saka is known for coming in late, but anyway, we really do appreciate our guests, and I'm just going to introduce them. No particular order. I don't want trouble this morning. Hamza, I don't want trouble this one, so in no particular order. That's fine. Council, good morning. Good morning. Council ACHIAA is here this morning. Yeah. And real men wear pink. Oh, this is not pink. This is red.
No, fuchsia. Fuchsia. You know, I know. I'm a typical man. The only colors I know are red, blue, yellow. But I understand it's a color called fuchsia.
Fuchsia.
Is it fuchsia or something like that? A version of pink.
I've not heard it.
But I say real men wear pink.
Yeah, real men wear pink. It looks good on you.
Yeah, thanks.
And I am employing you to wear pink more in the month of October, because it signifies the fight against breast cancer.
Oh, breast, we love.
Yeah.
I also feel that. But when you said Saka is known for coming late, I think you should have added that Andrew is known for coming early.
Sure, we'll do that next time. My next guest is Hamza Suhini. Good morning.
Good morning, OHEMAA.
Good morning, Council. I have two councils today, and a council in the making also here today.
And add yourself.
So today, yeah, I'm just a facilitator. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. Welcome, Saka-san.
Thank you very much, OHEMAA. When I was coming, you as somebody was telling me, this Nigerian actress, Genevieve Inaji, that she was on the program. What is she doing there? So when I entered it, I realized that you are the one.
Oh, please. We don't even look alike. There's no essential of resemblance.
I think the hairstyle.
I see.
I don't know when the hair suddenly grew big like that.
But this is my hair. I've always had hair.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good.
Hair. This is my hair.
It's good.
Anyway, thank you, gentlemen. Good morning once again. And if you just joined in, this is the newspaper review segment on Pan-African Television. We're going to delve into several conversations. Our first topic will be the Namibia blocks ship over Israel war crime concerns. Also, Parliament approved 339 million USD for Tema motorway expansion project, not 660 million. This is coming from Kwame Agboja. Group petitions OSP to probe 245 million USD expenditure for all African games, and also public not enthused about Mohammed's 24-hour nightclub promise. Send in your contributions on 0559919802 on Facebook. We're live on there as well. Now let's delve into our conversation. Just a little context to the Namibian story. Namibia blocks ship over Israel war crime concerns. Story captured on page 5 of the Daily Guide newspaper. It says a vessel suspected by the Namibian authorities to be carrying military cargo intended for Israeli use in the ongoing war in Gaza has been blocked from docking in the southern African country. This is just about it. And I want to engage my panelists this morning. Let me start with you, Counsel. I want to find out what's the legal grounds Namibia used to invoke this action specifically. What legal grounds do they have to justify the blocking of the ship?
Okay, so let me take this opportunity to wish you a lovely morning. It will be an untruth to say this is the first time I'm meeting you, but technically the first time we are meeting on set, and I hope that we will have a very fruitful discussion. Also wish my brother Hamza a good morning, and my own brother Salia. I love the fight in him. I'll encourage him not to stop fighting. He should always stand by what he believes in, no matter what anybody says. After all, we have a right to disagree. So, I think, to do justice to this topic, we all need to look at what even caused in the first place. I think it flows from the issue Israel is having with Hamas and Palestine, and what's called. And I think this has been ongoing for some time. Now, if you recall, sometime in December 2023, South Africa brought a case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, and as in the basis of the case is that Israel, in how it's handling the issue in Palestine, is in breach of, I think, the 1948 Geneva Convention on genocide. So, as in, a case has been brought against Israel, and the case is premised on one genocidal act. They are talking about apartheid regime in Israel managing an apartheid regime in the Gaza Strip. They are speaking about Israel, the fact that the blockades and occupation of Israel are also genocidal in nature, and essentially Namibia's decision to blockade ships they perceive to be carrying arms is premised on their support on the action Israel has brought against South Africa has brought against Israel. I think their Minister of Justice herself said it, as in she stated that the basis for the blockade is to prevent what's called as in the continuation of the genocidal acts of Israel against the people of Palestine. So, to answer your question, that's the legal basis Namibia themselves are claiming. But like in the ICJ, Israel is opposed to the arguments of South Africa, supported by Namibia, and then seen in their blockade of the ship. Their argument essentially is that the actions they are taking, one is born out of self-defense. If you recall, I think sometime in October, more than over 1,000 Israelis were killed, some were captured by Hamas, and Israel is saying that the actions they are taking against Hamas or in the Gaza Strip is premised on his right to self-defense, especially as Hamas uses civilians as a military weapon in their fight against Israel. Also, Israel's argument also is that indeed ICJ do not even have jurisdiction to hear this matter, because their action, because the action is premised on the 1948 Convention on Genocide. They are saying that what is happening isn't a genocide per se, and that is really an armed struggle. It's a war, and because it's a war, a legal war, then South Africa cannot intervene on the basis of it being genocidal in nature. So essentially, that's the legal framework and the basis for which Namibia feels that it can block ships they think contains arms.
It's just a suspicion. There has been no confirmation to this.
Exactly, and that's why so Israel would need to take steps already. So they suspect they've blocked the ship. I don't know if steps will be taken to inspect the content of it. But like I'm saying, what they are claiming is that they believe the ship has weapons. They believe those weapons are going to be used by Israel to perpetuate genocidal acts in the Gaza Strip, and the basis is the action that South Africa has already brought against Israel in the International Court of Justice. It's an ongoing case. Let us monitor and then see how far. But having said that, I think our position on how Israel is handling Palestine is clear, or the people of Gaza is clear. And my position has always been that it is time for the world to insist on a two-state solution to the issues in the Gaza Strip. Because if we say that one of the abiding principles of international law is the right of people to have to self-determination, I think it is important that we apply those same principles to the people of Gaza. They should have a right to form their own nation and to assert their sovereignty. And all the problems that are happening there is because of a refusal or the refusal of the world, or the use of that area as a weapon in the geopolitics. So for me, my worry is the ease with which we are able to depart from principle. One of the abiding principles of international law is the right of people to self-determination. I think those same principles should be applied in the area, and to grant the people of Palestine the right to forge their own nation.
All right. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, thanks.
Hamza.
Good morning to you, and of course to my colleague panelists, and most importantly to our viewers out there, OHEMAA. But interestingly, before going into the Namibian case, I woke up with a rather stressful news this morning about the possibility of water crisis that this country is likely to be ushered into. Unfortunately, I think that we have been in crisis for some time now. So what the Ghana Water Company Limited seem to be announcing is simply an alert for all of us to take caution and to know that within the coming weeks, the water situation in the country, especially in Greater Accra, is going to become very bad. Perhaps worse, if I should put it that way. And you see, it is worrying, especially at this critical stage of our economic life, and most importantly, the role water plays in our livelihoods. Our economy is already collapsed. Water has health undertones, and so any serious government must be interested in investing meaningfully in the water supply in the system, not necessarily because people would have access to it to bath, but largely because it's connected to our health delivery systems, and most importantly, to livelihoods. And that is why it is disappointing that this government, since it came into office, seemed not to prioritize investments in the water sector. And I say this with a bit of concern, and comparing it to what happened in the past, especially under John Dramani Mahama, I can confidently say that we're able to move the water supply from about 55% to 73% in terms of increase in output. And that resulted in about 110 million additional gallons added to the water supply system in the country. That's how come we invested in projects like the Pond Water Project, the Accra Desalination Plant, and a host of others. Unfortunately, even treating the current water supply has become quite burdensome in terms of cost. And that is the dire consequences of a depreciating cedi. What this simply means is that now it is costing Ghana Water Company Limited more money to treat the water that we have in the system. You can imagine most of their treating equipments and the chemicals are bought outside this country. They would have to change into foreign currency to be able to import them to ensure that they treat the water supply. It is therefore not surprising that there seem to be shortages because the cost has more than quadrupled. And so it is difficult for Ghana Water Company Limited to live up to the expectation of the people. So I would want to use this platform to call on government to pay critical attention to the water sector and try as much as possible to cut down the waste associated with government expenditure, and most especially the recently launched project, the Mutamamoto Way, 333 million. I'm sure you will be discussing it. Right. Another untimely event that could have been used at the critical moment to make sure that we address our water supply problems in the country. But that said, let me get into the Namibian case. OHEMAA, I think that what Namibia did is clearly within its legal remit. And I say so because I'm sure that just like any other country, when it comes to the management of your water bodies, you, quite apart from the international agreements that we all subscribe to, one is also given the freedom as a sovereign nation to develop your own internal control mechanisms, especially when dealing with your water bodies and your, if you like, even your airports and stuff like that. So yes, I don't think that what Namibia has done is out of the ordinary. And for me, I think that they should be commended. If they had encouraged or accepted that ship to dock at the Namibian waters, it would have been a tacit endorsement of the reckless, suicidal and genocidal acts of Israel in Palestine. So it is commendable, but they should have gone beyond that, to the extent that the ship entered its water bodies. I think that they were also clothed with this legal authority to even arrest that ship. Because I'm pretty much convinced that if the ship was carrying cocaine, they would have arrested that ship for carrying cocaine. And so if you did not know that the ship was carrying arms and later on discover that they were carrying arms, you were within your legal remit to arrest that ship. And this raises issues of sovereignty amongst African states and how we value that sovereignty and our reluctance sometimes to assert that sovereignty. And I feel that in this particular case, Namibia was simply reluctant to assert its own sovereignty. Any other Western country wouldn't have just refused to allow that ship to dock, but they would have taken it a step further by ensuring that that particular ship was arrested. Because you do not communicate that you are carrying certain things, and on the contrary, it turns out that you are carrying weapons intended for warfare, of which Namibia is not part. So for me, I think that they should have gone beyond that. Because what is happening in Palestine is totally unacceptable. Just this morning, I was reading that we are now in the region of about 12,000 children who seem to have lost their lives to the barbaric act of Israel. 12,000 children. These are children who cannot fire weapons. These are children who cannot throw stones. These are children who cannot organize against the Israel government. These are children who cannot take part in any form of protest. But they seem to be the worst culprits as far as this needless invasion of Palestine is concerned. And these are things that we should be concerned about as a people. And so it is not enough for South Africa alone, like Senior Counsel indicated. I think that African countries must begin to have a say. The African Union must indicate its position on this genocide. And indicating the position is not enough. We must see concrete steps intended to support South Africa in its bid to ensure that Israel is brought to book. And I can assure you that if we are able to do so as a unit, as an African bloc, it will compel most of the Western blocs come to the negotiating table and we all can agree on an acceptable resolution to the problems confronting the Gaza Strip. Until that is done, we will continue to sit around discussions like this, pontificating ideas and views as to the situation on the ground, whilst children and women continue to die. If you look at the death toll now, I think it stands around 29,000 people. And out of these 29,000 people, over 60% of that number are women and children. That is worrying. And for some of us, the United Nations has proven in this particular case to be a useless organization. Excuse my language, utterly useless. And that is the more reason why African countries must begin to band together and demand that the Western world try as much as possible to beat down on the politics when it comes to foreign policy and its relationship with weaker states. Because you see, if they succeed in Palestine, we may not know where the next train will stop. There's the need for us to nip that in the bud. And the only way to do that is for the African Union and African leaders, like South Africa has done. South Africa has done it, has shown the way. We must also follow in that suit. No amount of commentary will help the situation in Palestine. What we need now is action. And that action can only be driven by Africa as a bloc. Because most of them have their economic interests tied to Africa. And so our bargaining position is strengthened by their economic interest. And if we begin to band together and make those demands and indicate our unwillingness to open up certain sectors of our economy that they are interested in, until that case is resolved, or until the war, the senseless genocide, I won't call it war, in Palestine is brought to an end, I can assure you that if we are able to muster the courage to do that, the Western world will respond and mount the necessary pressure on Israel to take a backstage. But I will be disappointed if the International Court of Justice, at the end of the day, takes the position of South Africa. Because it all has to do with international politics. And South Africa is out there as a lone ranger with no state support from other countries. So do not be surprised if at the end of the day, they are unable to reach any meaningful outcome. And the International Court of Justice decides to go the way of Israel, unfortunately. That is what is likely to happen until we marshal all the necessary powers to go and give South Africa the necessary support. So, OHEMAA, I can only wish the people of Palestine well and pray and hope that sovereign nations would suddenly see the need to come and protect lives of, the lives of children and women, especially within that region. And hopefully it doesn't more and less escalate to other countries as well.
All right, thank you, Hamza. Great submission there. Saka.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me take this. But please, just pardon me. I lost my voice a bit. Let me take this opportunity to say good morning to my fellow panelists and to your good self. A good morning to our flag bearer and the president of Ghana and the MPP fraternity in general. First of all, I did not want to start in political notes or partisan notes. But as usual, Hamza just did something that clearly I need to respond to. Ghana Water came out to explain to certain communities within the Greater Accra region why there will not be water supply. And it's as a result of a problem that they encountered. And they assured them that they assured the communities like Adenta and other environs, East Legon and other communities around, the reason for the intermittent water supply, and assure them of what they are doing. I mean, does that warrant hey, when you people didn't do, in terms of water supply, what the NPP did, what the NDC said they have done, it pale into insignificance. So, I mean, that is not a topic here for us to continue with. If not, I think that we will, we will delve into that and take the whole time. I mean, I know, the Upper East water supply, the water supply, almost everywhere, more than thrice what the NDC did. And you come and sit here and just throw dust into the eyes of, I mean, with the Namibia situation.
I gave you figures.
Oh, please, let me talk. With the Namibia situation, I think that as a nation, let's be honest with ourselves. I mean, not as a nation, as the world community, I think we have allowed Israel far too long to misbehave. Everybody knows. I mean, the history is so palpable. You don't need to even go and then do some research to realize that the Palestinians are staying in their home. You don't need anybody to tell you that the aggressors is the Israelis. The Palestinians, they are in their home and they are protecting their home. Now, some people say it's war. What kind of war? What triggered this whole thing was in the 11th of October last year, when Hamas, in their usual defense of themselves and their territory, did what they did. And Israel decided to bomb the whole of Gaza, because that was what they were waiting for. They were just waiting for something to trigger, so that they take advantage of that and cause genocide. They are exterminating almost everybody within Gaza. And we know, I mean, it is not because of what Hamas did. We all know that. This is a long-standing thing. That's a peace treaty upon peace treaty upon peace treaty, and Israel has always flouted the agreement. Just give them the right to self-determination. They said, no, these people do not have right to even, be called a state. In 1985, there was an agreement, and that even led to the death of Yasser Arafat. We have said this and we have discussed this matter here time and again. Israel continued their aggression, no matter what anybody says. But I blame the United States of America, because they have been goading them on. They are their backers. And Israel do not fear anybody, because they know that the most powerful nation in the world is behind them and pushing them to cause atrocities. And I believe, I mean, if I am disappointed actually in the Arab League. It's like the Arabs themselves are not together. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Yemen, those countries around. Because you don't need to go and be fighting Israel, but there are other ways of fighting them. One of which is even the Namibia situation. One of which is what South Africa is doing. You understand? But it's as if, first of all, I mean, Israel has to, go into some unholy alliance or agreement with Egypt, in order that all of them will stand askance, indifferent, and turn the other way around. And people are being killed, maimed, destroyed, families, home, livelihood, everything. They want to destroy Gaza in the name of, I don't know, in the name of what? In the name of what? Which is against the United Nations protocols of aggression and taking over nations. I mean, in the past, it used to be so. It was like the might was right those days, I mean, the dark days. And there were conquests here and there. But after the formation of the United Nations, and when enlightenment came, those things belong to those medieval era. But because of the United States and their inordinate desire to see that Israel have a home, have a place that they can also call a home, they have allowed, they are taking by force the Palestinians' land. And the Namibia situation, what did they do wrong? They are saying that there were some explosive weapons that were to dock in their territory, and they believe it was, I mean, there was a permission that was asked. It was en route to, what do you call it, Israel. And they think that is not good enough. And they decided to decline that permission and to block the dock, the ship. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. This is a nation that wants peace for the continent of Africa and to a large extent the world. And therefore anything that will jeopardize the peace that we all yearn for, they are not for it. That is the way that all of us should do. Israel can live side by side with the Palestinians. But you see, they say they don't trust that they can live and be surrounded within that, because they are brothers. We all know, I mean, historically, if you read religion, you will know that they are brothers. All of them, I mean, came from Abraham. And why can't they live together? And you say that even when the agreement was reached, that within a space of 5 years, Palestinian state should be controlled by Palestinians. The Israelis decided to move away from the interior, and they were now in charge of the borders. So if you are Palestinian and you want to even leave your own country, you need permission of Israel. I mean, what sort of slavery is this? And the whole world is quiet, as if nothing is happening. And waiting, and any time Hamas or Hezbollah or any other country in support of Israel does anything in defense, they say, oh, these are the terrorists. Meanwhile, there's a group of people who are terrorizing some people in their home, and nobody is saying anything. And it's becoming annoying. It has moved from annoyance to irritation and to some extent anger. And when it explodes, I think that the world would not be able, and it can lead to a third or fourth world war, because of the way, the indifference of world superpowers. I doff my hat to the UN General Secretary, because you could see that he's doing all that he can, but he's not getting support from others. If the Israelis were that good, why were they expelled from other areas, Spain, UK, and other areas? And then instead of them to also go and then live side by side with their neighbors and ensure development, they want to take full control of the people. Not even that, kill them, exterminate them, and let them exist no more. And I think that is something that is abhorrence, and the world must rise up.
All right. Thank you, Saka. This is still the newspaper review segment, and my panelists have done due diligence to this very subject. Let me read some comments on WhatsApp. Says MPP communicators were given fake information, and as NDC communicators must not rely on the source of MPP communicators' information, but find their own sources of information from different sources, or when they left power, what was the status of the sector? I'm sure it's in relation to the water issue. Now, this one says, please, anytime Saka appears on your show, listeners don't benefit fully. How don't they benefit? Okay, he should credit listeners with a bit of respect and not unnecessarily interject and make. He was making his point. He didn't interject anyone. Saka, so I'll be your lawyer.
The person wrote it yesterday, yes at night.
No, it just came 8 a.m. All right, so it says, good morning, OHEMAA, and your beautiful panelists. December 7th is just around the corner. We will, I'm not sure what he was trying to say. This corrupt government the exit way, inshallah, we will show up, I'm sure. My greetings to Comrade Hamza Suhini. This is Alhaji Ali Al-Hassan from Tamale. Thank you so much. All right, so I'll be taking more of your messages on WhatsApp and on Facebook as well. Please do well to send in your messages. Now, we have several other interesting stories to digest. Our second story is supposed to be the Parliament story, which happens to be the fact that Parliament approved 339 million USD for Tema motorway expansion. But I'm going to exercise discretion here to jump to the group that has petitioned OSP to probe the 245 million USD expenditure on the All African Games. Now, interestingly, not too long ago, the public bemoaned the humongous 50 million USD that was expended on the feeding of 5,000 athletes for 18 days during the All African Games, which happened here in Ghana. Interesting concerns have been raised. We've heard from the general public, and just yesterday, the Forum for Accountable Governance, a civil society organization devoted to ensuring good governance, rule of law, and accountable democratic dispensation, yesterday petitioned the Office of the Special Prosecutor regarding the massive expenditure of over 245 million USD on the recently held 13th African Games in Ghana. Now, just last week, we did a breakdown of the 50 million that was expended on the feeding of 5,000 athletes during the All African Games. And people were asking, why, what kind of foods were they fed? Some made funny statements like they were fed horses, among other things. Now, it still baffles the minds of Ghanaians how 245 million USD was spent on the All African Games. There was a tweet by Sadiq Adams, and he actually juxtaposed this to, okay, he said that All African Games Wahala, UPSA is literally contracting an entirely new school campus. That is a 10-floor multi-purpose twin-tower edifice and 2 new 10-story hostel block facilities. A 10-floor twin tower with offices, lecture rooms, commercial centers, and halls of residential areas, and will replace the administrative complex on the old campus. The 2 students hostel, 10-story each, will accommodate about 3,250 persons. The project's ultra-modern nature has been described as unprecedented in the history of the university. All 4 ground projects cost 230 million Ghana cedis, which, when it's converted, happens to be 14 million US dollars. And he says, meanwhile, the African Game organizers didn't need to build anything from scratch. So it happens that these facilities used for the African Games already existed. It was just a matter of refurbishing it. And when you look at the stats, it says they refurbished 4 Legon halls, the Elizabeth Say Hall, Kwapon, Liman, and Nelson Hall, for 250 million Ghana cedis, which is $16 million. They used $16 million out of the $245 million to refurbish these 4 halls, just like repainting, installing ACs, electrical works, among other things. Cost 16 million USD. Now it says both the UPSA construction and Legon refurbishment happened around the same period. The students who returned to the 16 million renovated facility can attest to the changes there. When I say only a breakdown will clear doubts, this is what I mean. Counsel, what sayeth thou?
So, first of all, let me use this opportunity to recommend what's the name of the CSO?
Forum for Accountable Governance.
Yes. So this morning I listened to my own brother Kwame on CTFM explaining his objective in seeking the special prosecution to investigate into suspicion of corruption in how procurement was done, how monies were expended during the all African Games. Now, the reason for my commendation is because I believe firmly that his decision to take on and petition the OSP builds or help build the right political culture, which I think can help sustain our democracy. And that's a culture that not only tolerates diverse opinions, but also demands accountability from our leaders. Because frankly, figures are interesting. Yeah, because beyond they spending 50 million on food, I think there is an allegation that they spend about $4.5 million also on accreditation tax.
Yes, I have the figures here. So it is actually for accreditation. It is actually 4.5 million USD. So this is the breakdown. For construction of state-of-the-art sports center at Boteman, 145 million USD. Renovating the University of Ghana Stadium, 35 million USD. Renovation, not building from scratch. Refurbishment of the Games Village, 16 million USD. And also the coverage of games, 3.6 million USD, which the GBC came back to say that they received just 105,000 US dollars. Feeding of athletes, 15 million USD, and accreditation, 4.5 million USD.
Yeah. So there are a number of issues that clearly this brings. One is the action by OHEMAA, which is really commendable because of its impact in our desire to build the right political culture, which is the only way in which we can sustain the democracy we have. So that's the first issue. Then the second issue is the need for us to move from this procurement the democracy, because our democracy essentially has become a procurement one, and it's become a procurement one because the reason why our politicians, in my view, want leadership is not because they want to bring about transformation. The reason why they want leadership is because they think that's the surest way in which they can fatten their pockets, and I think this belief has been enforced during the misrule of Nana Akufo-Addo. Because sadly, we've built a political culture that is very parochial in nature. So the reason why people want political power, the reason why people take decisions they take, the reason why people or politicians or people in governing even pursue certain policies is not because of what is in the best interest of the country, but it's because of what is in their parochial interest. I think it is that culture that has led to this very interesting figures in the African Games. Have you told us how, in terms of the economics of it, what we gained? Because we spent 200 and something million. What did, in terms of the economics? You simply take the feeding, budget. The issue even goes beyond just the figure, but who the contract was given to. Because apparently the contract was given to the wife of or a company owned by Bidi. So we even say the secretary, people don't hear.
Minister at large.
Let's mention the name, so you know. Owned by, you understand, now they are claiming that they spent $15 million on 5,000 people. When you break it down, what it simply means is that in a day they spend 3,000 Ghana cedis per athlete. So when you break it down, supposing they eat 3 times in a day, it meant that for each meal they spend 1,000 Ghana cedis.
Apparently, the breakdown revealed that each athlete spent 855 cedis on breakfast, 855 cedis on lunch, 855 cedis on dinner.
So, as in, very expensive. In Suriname, how much does one? So what they do eating in Suriname or what? It is outrageous, and you see, it is outrageous because of what it does to the belief of the people of this country in democracy being the best system of governance, especially in the light of the Afro Barometer report, we said that the young people of this country increasingly are becoming disenchanted with democracy. So in this simple African games, one, in granting the contract, there was no regard for conflict of interest. No regard for conflict of interest. And I think this issue has been persistent over the past few years. You mentioned Brian Echampo's case. You mentioned the fact that, what's it called, the finance minister's company, most of the time, is the transactional advisor when we are procuring loans. And see, what this does is that it undermines the trust the public, the people, the demos, have in democracy as the best form of governance that will best create a society where individual ambitions can be met. So what is at stake is not just about the monies, but what is at stake is the extent to which these acts undermines the democracy we all agreed to be the best system of governance to protect our individual liberties. And that is what is at stake here. And that's why I commend Kwame and I call on all Ghanaians, all of us, because the Constitution entreats us to defend, not just probe, because it's not, because it's to defend the integrity of this country, to defend the country, to defend the Constitution, because what is happening is an attack on the country. What's happening is an attack on the country, because you see, when you act in a manner, when you use the powers that we've granted you to act in a manner that seeks to undermine the confidence the people have in the system, especially when we are a republic. So when we are a republic, it means that the power resides with the people. And they grant their powers to political leaders to serve. Now, immediately the people, the public, loses confidence in that transmission of power or what the powers they give to the politician, what did they use it for? Now, really, what you are attacking is the republic. And that's why I'm saying that it is the duty of every single Ghanaian to stand up and fight and defend the integrity of this country. Because clearly, when you take into consideration everything that has been done to this country, from the attempted sale of the hotels, when you take into consideration the evil of the ambulance contract awarded to Nanado's daughter's baby daddy. When Sally Amala daddy, Nanado's daughter's baby daddy. Yes, baby daddy.
Salah is noting all those things. Someone is a stand here.
Yeah, yes. When you take into consideration all the breaches of conflict of interest, when you take into consideration the fact that the president had no qualms to appoint people who are perceived to be NPP apparatchiks into the EC. Yeah, you understand? Then clearly, for me, what it tells me is we need to save our republic. We need to save our republic. And for me, like I keep on saying, beyond we sacking them in 7 December 2024, beyond we sacking them, there must be a day of reckoning. There must be a day of reckoning. And I keep on saying, the people whose head must be on the chopping board should not just be the politician. It should not just be Nanado and his people. But the people whose head should be on the chopping board should also be the enablers. Because ask yourself, what kind of environment enabled this non-leader to lead? What kind of environment enabled this sin to be perpetrated against Ghana? What kind of environment enabled this depravity of leadership to happen? Because right now, where we are at the moment, political leadership has lost credibility. So whoever becomes the next leader, what he has to deal with is not just the one-ton breakdown of our economy, but he needs to also restore the confidence of the people of this country in political leadership. Yeah, understand? That's the evil that has been done to our country, and there must be a day of reckoning. There must be a day of reckoning because people we grant our powers to, where they've used those powers in a manner which is adverse to the collective interest of the people of Ghana, then they must be held accountable. And that accountability must go beyond we just voting them out. That's what I'm saying. That beyond just voting them out, there must be a day of reckoning. And the people whose heads must be on the chopping board should not just be the president and his people, but the people who enabled it, the MPP as a political party. There must be a day of reckoning for them. The media men who clearly have forgotten their role as being one of the key facilitators in the building of the right political culture. That's the only way you can sustain this democracy. They failed to do that job. They failed to do the CSOs. As in this issue about the Peace Council, right? The Peace Council has lost its relevance. Because the Peace Council, you keep on telling us about peace, come and sign peace pacts, but you never question the military, the security agencies who had no issue killing 8 of our compatriots just because of an election. And you want to force people to sign what peace, what? When you have failed to hold accountable the security agencies who had no qualms to kill 8 of our compatriots, 8 Ghanaians lost their lives in their call in undertaking their civic responsibility. They lost their lives. What has the Peace Council said? What has the Peace Council said? So what right do the Peace Council have to be talking about peace? When the president was undermining or was creating a situation where the EC can virtually made it impossible for the EC to undertake its job. Because what's the job of the EC? The job of the EC is to deliver an election which is not only free and fair, but which is perceived to also to be free and fair. What did the Peace Council say? The Peace Council kept quiet. So it's not about calling people come and sign peace or concede, as in when you lose, concede. You understand? But when the president sat down aloof, not just sitting aloof, he himself perpetrated acts that made it practically impossible for the EC to deliver on its mandate. Now, essentially what the president was doing was making it impossible for peace to be upheld, because right now, I can tell you, any result apart from MPP losing will be questioned. Will be questioned because the president has appointed into the EC people who are perceived to be MPP made. So, not to talk too much, I think this issue with concerning how monies are being expended is a symptom of so many wrongs, misrule that has happened. Beyond the outrageous nature of the amounts being banded around, the conflict of interest, what's called issues, and then clearly, Kwame also done so. Show all of us the way that we all have a role to play in sustaining this democracy, and we can play that role if we collectively, as the people of Ghana, come together to forge that right political culture, because that's the only way in which we can sustain democracy. That right political culture that do not only tolerate diverse views, like I'm going to tolerate Saleh's view, and I hope he tolerates my view. That will tolerate diverse views, but most importantly, that will hold political leadership accountable until we create that culture. Then our democracy will always be at risk.
All right, thank you so much, Council. For the purposes of, feeding you with the information of what happened yesterday, especially those who haven't seen the video of Kwame Owusu-Dan. So if our producers have that video, please let's quickly take a look and return to the studio for our discussion.
Issue has sparked significant public debate as the amount in question is a substantial sum, particularly in the context of Ghana's ongoing developmental needs. The controversy began when the Minister of Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, disclosed during a Public Accountants Committee session on Tuesday, August 20, 2024, that the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, GBC, had been allocated over $3.6 million for its coverage of the games.
You had an arrangement with GBC to cover the All Africa Games, right? Can you share with this committee how much that coverage was for and whether payment has been made for same?
Yes, GBC was the official broadcaster for the African Games, the 13th African Games, and I can confirm that full payment have made to GBC.
Do you have per chance what the amount was?
I can't recollect the exact amount, but I know that it's in the excess of $3 million US dollars.
You paid GBC
yes.
in excess of $3 million US dollars for coverage of the All Africa Games.
Yes.
Chairman, I think that I would rest here, and maybe the next time GBC appears before us, because most of the technicians who worked on the All Africa Games have still not been paid. And so we wanted to ascertain if you have paid and how much has been paid. Chairman, I'm grateful.
However, this claim was promptly challenged by GBC's management, which asserted that the state broadcaster only received $105,000 for its services. This sharp discrepancy between the reported allocation and the actual funds received has raised serious concerns, prompting further scrutiny from the public and media.
The benefit total payment to GBC's for GBC's benefit, I repeat, was $105,000 US dollars, and that is what we got.
Now, but does GBC have any evidence to back what you're saying? Because, I mean, the minister is the one in charge. He has made a statement.
Of course.
What evidence do we have?
We definitely have enough documentation. These monies are not paid in bags. They are paid through the bank, and they are indicated what the money is for. And before we do that, there's a letter we will receive from the ministry telling us whose payment it should be for. And so we don't act on our own, we act upon instructions. And that we have all the documentations, and we have everything in place to show that these monies, you see, public funds are not easily disbursed like that. GBC needs $3 million US dollars to do a lot of things. And if we got the $3 million, we would have gone ahead to start spending on GBC's needs, including procuring an OB van. We didn't get that money.
In response to the growing outcry, the Ministry of Youth and Sports released a statement detailing a breakdown of a $3.6 million allocation. Despite this, GBC remains firm in its position, stating that it has documentation to prove that it received only $105,000 for the coverage. This discrepancy suggests that over $3.5 million, equivalent to more than 54 million Ghana cedis at the current exchange rate of the state funds, is unaccounted for, fueling suspicions of possible misappropriation or theft. In light of these concerns, a civil society organization, Forum for Accountability, led by lawyer Kwame Owusu-Danso, petitioned the Special Prosecutor, Kisi Ejebin, to launch a full-scale investigation into the matter. Addressing the media after petitioning the Special Prosecutor, Mr. Danso said the inquiry is essential to uncover the truth, ensure accountability, and protect the integrity of public finances in the country.
I think that every Ghanaian citizen is interested in accountability. And I want to believe that the office was set up for the purpose of ensuring expeditious accountability. And so I would not want to give them any ultimatum, but I know that they have the interests of the good people at heart, and they must do what is right by their conscience, and they must do what is right by the laws of this country. To that end, I expect that they get back to us as soon as possible so that we can be assured that they are interested in investigating this matter and bringing finality to it.
He told the news team that he is ready to accept the outcome of a petition in good faith.
Well, I mean, to the extent that I told you that I have so much confidence in the office of the Special Prosecutor, we are all law-abiding citizens. And so if investigations are conducted and properly so done, and the outcome is that there are no corruption-related matters inherent in the organization of the All African Games, I think the matter would have been brought to bed. And so I would not further query or ask questions about it. At least my conscience will be satisfied that I've done the law's duty for the good people of this country.
that's what transpired yesterday at the office of the Special Prosecutor, led by Kwame Wusu-Danso Esquire. Hamza, let me come to you on this subject. One of the many concerns is that the stakeholders and members of the ruling New Patriotic Party don't seem to find a problem with these humongous figures, because common sense would tell us that you cannot use or utilize 15 million USD in feeding 5,000 people. And when you look at the nature of any sporting activity, the further the game, the decline the participation. And so it beggars believe that these amounts were utilized in, funding this whole project. Tell me what your thoughts are.
First of all, it is important to state that just like many of the inflated figures we have had to deal with since this government assumed office in January 2017, this adds to the litany of cases that justifies why, like my senior counsel indicated, we should do everything within our power to make sure that the life of this government does not go beyond 7th January 2025. You see, OHEMAA, the entire nation is becoming numb to the series of scandals that seem to be the only major achievement of the Nana Bawumia administration. And the most painful part of it is the sheer arrogance with which these guys go about it. And sometimes it is even difficult to see reason. Sometimes it is difficult to understand why we have been so tolerant as a nation to this point. Because you see, the only way to put a reckless, corrupt, and insensitive government in check is not through elections. Elections must not only be the only way to keep such governments in check. There are so many arsenals that we can deploy as a people to make sure that reckless, insensitive, corrupt regimes like that being led by Nana Bawumia is kept in check. Kenya showed the way. We saw it in Kenya. When the youth of Kenya decided to rise to defend their future. And so if you look at what is happening now and the pain that some of us harbor, it's not just directed at the Nana Bawumia government. To a reasonable extent, and justifiably so, it is directed to us as a people. When did we lose our confidence and courage as a republic and as citizens of this country, of Kwame Nkrumah Ghana? Why are we so reluctant to draw into the spirit and aspirations and legacy of our forebears who fought for the independence of this country? Many of them lost their lives so that today could become better for us. Market women who did not even understand the four corners or never saw the four corners of a classroom stood up when they were called upon to protect our country from foreign occupation and governance. Under the AFRC PNDC, the Ghanaian citizens once again rose to the occasion to support a military regime to once again reset this country after it was plunged down by corrupt acts and deeds of political class. And the most painful aspect of what is happening today is that, tracing back from independence, never have we ever been subjected to such broad day robbery with verve and with nauseating arrogance like we have been subjected to under Nana Bawumia. And you see, it didn't start today. So why are people surprised? Why are these expenditures surprising people? It is simply because we have encouraged it or enabled it, like Senior Counsel indicated, by our decision not to act. When the government came into office and we started raising the alarm bells, especially with PDS, we did not get the needed support. So that was what emboldened the senior minister to recklessly pursue the Kroll Associates saga, and at the back of that embezzled over $15 million that could not be accounted for, even according to the Auditor General. The Ghanaian people did not see the sense in rising up, even when the opposition demanded that there was a need for us to hold these people accountable. So they were further emboldened, and they took it to a higher level. That is why today, the president's government and his cousin finance minister at the time would have the effrontery to award a $34 million so-called ambulance servicing project to the president's baby's, what's the name? Daddy. Daughter's baby daddy. Because we have become a group of timid citizens that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia can simply wake up on any side of their bed and decide to jump into our meager resources to do with it what it pleases. Because we've encouraged it, we've enabled by our inaction. We've enabled that plundering that is going on. And the most painful thing is that people think that it is too remote from them. It is not. It is this reckless looting of our meager resources that is reflecting in the prices of goods and services you buy at the markets. It is this reckless looting that is reflecting in the cost of water and electricity. It is this reckless looting of our resources that has had dire consequences on the dollar and to the cedi exchange rate that we are battling with. What the heck? When have you ever heard this? A sitting minister of state would hold dollars and pounds to the tune of over $3 million in her house, under her bed and wardrobe. In a developing economy, in a developing country, what more evidence of corruption and looting do you need? Just weeks ago, we woke up to the horrifying stories of the what's the name? The amount of money GBC was supposed to have received, still associated with the African Games, in terms of its broadcasting rights. Clarity hasn't been brought to that issue. And on daily basis, we are now beginning to know that there are far more horrifying stories associated with the entire expenditure than we ever made to believe under the GBC saga. Like Sadiq's indicated, if building a 10-story facility, twin-story facility, can cost the University of Professional Studies $40 million, how on earth renovation works of existing infrastructure that students sleep in at the University of Ghana cost you over $16 million? I'm an alumnus of University of Ghana. I know those houses, those hostels they are making references to. What kind of renovation did they do? Is it painting?
Yeah, correct. They painted the rooms, installed ACs, did a few electrical works.
Incredible. What kind of... Most of them already have ACs. Most of those facilities already have air conditions. So what kind of renovation? But then again, are you surprised? Like I indicated, we have emboldened that kind of reckless looting. It is not the first time that we are hearing that renovation is more expensive than building. This same Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia awarded a project to renovate, is it the whole terminal, airport? And the cost of the renovation, over 120 million Ghana cedis. Renovation alone, over 120 million Ghana cedis. And the whole nation kept quiet. And one interesting thing about it was even sole source to the gentleman, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's brother. It was sole source to him. So the only thing this government seemed to have done pretty well is their coordinated effort to loot the resources of this country. And my brother is wondering whether after they are booted out of office, actions will be taken. And I can assure you that we have indicated, President Mahama indicated, and that is why it was important for President Mahama to have presented the NDC manifesto himself. Because he argued that at the end of the day, the expectations of the Ghanaian people will be on him. And he is the leader of the National Democratic Congress and will be in charge of implementing our manifesto. And so insisted to be the first to let Ghanaians know what would be contained in the NDC manifesto. And one can appreciate the verve President Mahama exhibited in making reference to what we call ORA, the Operation Retrieve or Loot. Senior Counsel, don't harbor any fears. I think I've said it around this table, that people are taking President Mahama for granted. They think that the President Mahama who is coming is the President Mahama they have been used to over the last 2-3 decades, as far as the politics of this country is concerned. But I have always maintained that the greatest mistake one can make is to conclude, rather erroneously, that because this person has demonstrated humility throughout his political life, you can always take that for granted. When such a person changes, you can rest assured that your actions and the consequences of your actions would be met brutally by such a person.
Right.
And President Mahama has indicated that within 120 days in office, the ORA, Operation Retrieve All Routes, will be in full operation.
Right.
Because he understands that the only way to reset this country is to do so using a two-pronged strategy. The first fundamental pillar of resetting is to ensure accountability, and that is why the oral is important. It's after ensuring accountability that you can now proceed on the basis of that and get the support of the Ghanaian people to implement your economic transformation agenda.
Right.
But if you fail to ensure accountability, you will be unable to get the needed support to implement economic policies to ensure economic transformation. That's why, OHEMAA, let me commend our brother Keodi for taking this bold initiative. He's a media man.
Yeah.
And as a media man, many of them would have avoided this spectacle of trying to hold the government accountable, largely because in their own sense of the word neutrality, they are expected to be neutral. But he understands that being a media practitioner goes beyond being a neutral player. You also owe this republic, as a citizen of Ghana, the responsibility of ensuring that accountability thrives in our body politics. And that is why many of you, especially those in the media, must take inspiration from the bold step of KOD.
Right.
And encourage others to follow suit.
Right.
To be a media practitioner is not just to sit and host programs and interview politicians.
Yeah.
It goes beyond that.
Right.
Don't always forget your own responsibility first as a citizen of this country to the republic, and your commitment to ensuring that our democratic process is handled in a way that is acceptable and corruption free.
Right.
Until that is done, look, we can do whatever we want to do in this country. Cost of living will continue to be high because we are allowing the likes of Nana Bawumia to continue to loot the meager resources of this country. And I will be disappointed if my brother, for the sake of partisanship, attempts to defend this broadly.
Right. We'll hear from Saka, and it will confirm whether he's going to defend.
For the first time, I hope that
what we are discussing here.
Of this country first.
But with regards to media personalities being bold, there is a message. It says
he's first a citizen of Ghana.
Danso Amos says, "Good morning to you. Good morning to you and your panelists. I am so disappointed with some of the media personalities in this country. They see themselves spectators, not citizens. The media personalities are the crusaders of this country, but some of them are in bed with the corrupt government. It's alleged that they were paid 20,000 Ghana cedis each at the end of the Vice President's Meet the Press program last Sunday. Is it a normal thing, or it's part of vote buying?" From Amos Asim Fusu. All right. Messages keep coming through. Good morning, Pan-African TV. Randolph here from Freetown, Sierra Leone. I have been keenly monitoring the upcoming election debates in so many Ghana media institutions. What comes out clear is that Dr. Bawumia of NPP has not been found wanting in any corruption issues. You only heard about the sports minister, health minister, and CJ, which clearly tells you that Bawumia is edging his rivals because some people will vote for him as most allegations of corruption practices do not directly point at him. Bravo, Dr. Bawumia. Okay. This one says, "OHEMAA, can you please tell Saka to shun the petty politicking and unnecessary comparison?" But he hasn't even spoken. Oh, in his earlier submission. Okay, Saka, please, for once, be patriotic enough to speak for Ghana for once, and not for the MPP. Good morning to Council and my former English teacher, St. Joseph's. Oh, Council, you're a teacher? No, you. Oh. From Bandex, Tamale. Okay, let me take this last one, and then we proceed to our conversations. Good morning, OHEMAA. Nana and his Cosa Nostra clans has truly taken the advantage of Ghanaians' timidness as dumps to rob us as a nation. But we are still reminding them of the day we were lined up. BB Accra. Okay, let me take a last one and we move. Good morning, Pan-African TV. Please tell presenter to call us US dollars in full, because not everyone understands USD. Okay, we've taken note of that and we will do that accordingly. All right, Saka, over to you.
Thank you very much. I hope you know the reason why I was quiet.
No, because it is due you to be quiet when someone is talking.
Yeah,
it's just the ethical
so that when I'm also speaking, others will reciprocate. That is the more reason why I was so quiet.
Right.
And I hope the two people will take the heat. I've always been a citizen, and I will continue being a citizen. Yeah, I'm going to speak in the interest of the nation, as usual.
The looting condemned.
First of all, there are certain. Let me be honest. I mean, I will ask questions, and then I will provide when they need, when I have knowledge of the issue. First of all, I don't know. I mean, kudos to Kwame and his group. You know, he's seriously entering the civil society space. Some of us have been there long ago, and will continue to be there. And therefore, when Kwame was a lawyer and the substantive presenter of this show tried to bring some clarity to issues through the special prosecutor, we can only praise him. And I'm sure he has started and will not sleep. First of all, let's be honest. I mean, the number of people who were fed, are they 5,000?
Indicated by the sports minister.
They are 5,000.
Yes.
Because I have information, early information, that we have 5,000 athletes.
Yeah.
We have 3,000 technical officials. We have another 3,000 volunteers. and then we have another 2,000 guests.
What's the source of this information?
Oh, this coming from the Minister of. Can you let me finish?
Those were other.
Other what?
There were other aspects of the funding.
No.
But during the.
No, you listen to me.
During the Public Accounts Committee sitting, he indicated categorically that 5,000 people were fed for 18 days with X amount of money.
No problem. I said I will ask questions.
Okay.
But I know that it's not only athletes who are fed. If you are a technical official and you come with your athletes, they will go and eat, and then you will go to the canteen or the bush market to go and then eat. Is that how it is?
Funded by who?
I am saying.
You're asking. Okay.
Saying.
Okay.
If really the athletes are 5,000,
yeah.
As you also agreed.
Yeah.
That means I'm an technical official.
I've agreed with the information that.
Yeah. So I'm saying
right.
that it cannot be true that the people who were fed were only athletes.
And you are challenging the sports minister.
I am telling you.
Who assented to all the
This information also came from the sports ministry.
Okay.
To Ghanaians.
When?
Just Google. You see those things. Okay. So don't tell me when you have your phone.
No, the expenditure, can I provide you with?
No, you are not working there. You are not working there. Don't see, this is why I said that they should keep quiet.
Because
they're going to take
to 5,000.
Please.
The athletes were not
please.
Minister said that 5,000.
He said 5,000.
No, you see,
50 million.
No, I'm can see. You see, this is a problem of Ghanaians. Sometimes when you see, sometimes you see.
I'm just giving you.
I'm saying that. So you see, they come to that conclusion. My two brothers, when they sat here, even though Kwame had gone to the office of the special prosecutor to investigate the matter, they have already jumped to conclusion. They have already investigated it, and they are saying the government should be booted out. They sit in the comfort armchair critics. They sit here, air conditioned room, and they have already investigated and come to that conclusion and recommended that the government should be booted out. Look at them. I mean, the camera should just.
I'm disappointed that
I'm quite disappointed in you. I'm so much disappointed in you too. At the end of the day, the viewers will come at me.
Saka, we don't have much time.
No, but we should have time.
Yeah, so please
we should have time for me to deal with them.
No, deal with the issue. We are dealing with the issue.
I will deal with both.
No.
I will deal with them.
Maybe hopefully, maybe after the show. But now, let's do due diligence. All right, Saka, please let's proceed.
Yeah. So that I proceed. So I'm saying that even the number, because when they talk, they mention number of athletes.
Yeah.
An official is not an athlete. A guest, we know. I mean, people come, president, diplomats come to visit, and they are official guests that have been given accreditation.
Yeah.
They are part and they eat. They are part. Indeed, volunteers. Even though the word is volunteer, they are given stipends.
Okay.
So all this, and they eat. Ask the volunteers whether or not they eat or not. When they go there, do they give them food or they don't give them food? They watch the athletes eat, and after that, then they go for their leftovers.
So what's your point?
So the point is that the 5,000 cannot be.
Okay. So it has been overestimated or underestimated?
Underestimated.
Okay.
So the number of people who were fed should be more by far, by 13,000.
So you are defending the fact that.
You are
defending the fact that